If you'd like online business explained to you in a way that you can actually understand, go to latenightim.com/explain. It's completely free, and I made it just for you. Now, how about an episode?
Episode 171.
Late Night Internet Marketing.
This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, we talk about how to achieve your goals by analyzing words of wisdom from none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
This is the Terminator, and you are listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast. Enjoy the show. I'll be back.
All this and more on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
The Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
And now, broadcasting late at night from a little studio in the big state of Texas, your host, Mark Mason.
All right. And for those of you in the United States, happy birthday. Happy 4th of July. 4th of July is kind of the day in the United States that we think of, actually July 4th, 1776. We think of that as the day that represents the declaration of the independence of the United States of America from Great Britain as an independent nation. And a lot of the ideas around that were freedom from tyranny and oppression from the king. And so that's what we celebrate. There's been a lot of controversy about that in the news lately because for a lot of people, American ideals are represented on the 4th of July. Ideals like freedom from search and seizure, the right to bear arms, all the things that are called out in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, the right to due process, all of these things that we cherish as Americans and protect. That's sort of what a lot of us think of with regard to the 4th of July. The president of the United States has been in the media a lot because he wants to inject sort of a military piece to it. And, for a lot of Americans, that's very controversial because it makes us think about big communist parades and Hitler parades and other things that we saw that we were fighting against back in World War II and during the Cold War. And so it's been really sort of a difficult time in the media for the president. And it got me to thinking about some, what freedom really means. And one of the things that I thought about was Arnold Schwarzenegger, interestingly enough. Arnold is an interesting story because he grew up in post-World War II Austria, and the economic situation in post-World War II Austria was really terrible. And one time when he was a young kid, he was able to see a video of the United States and realized that that's where he wanted to be. And that's what started him on his journey. This American ideal he saw from post-war Europe, and he was, in a poor, difficult situation, but he saw this thing happening in the United States and he wanted to be a part of it. And of course, that launched all of his amazing success. And for those of you that don't know Arnold's story, it's kind of an amazing story. He decided he wanted to become a bodybuilder. At the time when bodybuilding was really an American thing, he became Mr. Universe and became very, very famous. And then he decided, following the model that he had seen with another very famous bodybuilder, he wanted to become a Hollywood movie star. And he was thinking like John Wayne level. That's what was in his mind. When he talks about it today, he recounts the idea that he didn't just want to be in movies. He wanted to be a movie star. And so he got some bit parts, but finally landed his breakthrough role as Conan the Barbarian. And of course, that led to all of these other movies, including most famously, I think, Terminator, and then a bunch of other stuff that's some of which is really funny, like Kindergarten Cop, and he's just been in a zillion movies. And then governor of California. I mean, this is a guy who's truly come from nothing to something amazing. And I think, for us as marketers, if we can figure out what Arnold's recipe was for that, how did he do that? How did he become so successful? If we can figure out what he did to do that massive thing, come from nowhere in post-war Europe all the way to through all of that amazing success to lead one of the biggest states in the United States. If he can do that, well, can't we apply some of that and have some success of our own? I think we can. And it turns out that several years ago, Arnold did quite a fantastic motivational speech, which has been published by GoalCast. And I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. It's on YouTube. I'll embed it in the show notes at latenightim.com/171. He explained what his plans are. And I thought, well, what his plans were, what his secret recipe was for this kind of success. And I thought what we could do today is let's take those and see how they apply to your online business and what you can do to leverage the experience that Arnold has in all of the great success that he's been able to achieve on the 4th of July. Okay, so Arnold's first rule, he only has 5. And I think the 5 of these will resonate with you. The very first rule he says is, you've got to have a vision.
So my first rule is find your vision and follow it. If you don't have a goal, if you don't have a vision, you just drift around and you're not going to be happy.
Or at least at one point he says, discover your vision and let that vision guide you. And I think for so many of us, I've talked so many times about understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And for a lot of us, you're just not there yet. You know that you want to have a business, but maybe it's because you want some extra money or you're trying to get away from a bad boss or whatever. And while those are certainly reasons to do a thing, they don't really rise to the level of a vision. So what do you want to do or become or achieve that really will propel you? Like Arnold had this vision that he wanted to be Mr. Universe or be a famous bodybuilder, and then later to be a famous movie actor, and then I'm sure later to be governor of California. He had these visions. He had a quest, a purpose that he was on. What's yours? And I think if you can't answer that, then that's some work you need to do to really try and break that down and understand what truly makes you go. And that's the introspection that I think we all need to do, is what gets you excited. For me, I love to help people, but I also love, if I'm totally honest with myself, I also love that feeling I get when people recognize that I'm helping people, or that I love that the little taste of fame. So I like the idea of helping people, and I love that. And mixed in with that, I also like being on stage in front of people and getting that recognition. That's energy for me. And so I can start to build a vision based out of that, where I build a business that helps people, which is what late night internet marketing tries to be. And in that business, I'm out front and I get that recognition. I'm in front of the microphone. I'm on stage. I'm doing those things. As I build the business, I keep that in mind, because that gives me energy and fuel to take the next steps. And I think it's really important that you figure that out for yourself, so that you're not building a business that you hate. If you absolutely hate the sound of your own voice, being a famous podcaster might not be the right vision for you. If you love interacting with people, if you love that one-on-one interaction, then running a silent kind of eBay business or Amazon business behind the scenes, that might not be the right business for you. So that's number one, have a vision and make sure that lines up with your why and all that implies. I think the second thing that Arnold talks about, which I think is really amazing and applies very well to internet businesses, don't think small.
Now my second rule is never ever think small. You have to go and shoot for the stars. I didn't just think about being in movies. No, I wanted to be a movie star. I wanted to have above the title billing. I wanted to become the highest paid entertainer. I basically wanted to be another John Wayne.
It's okay to start small and it's okay to focus small to take the next step. But you need to have a big vision about what's possible, because it turns out there's a lot of evidence around neuro-linguistic programming and other sort of visioneering sort of technologies that speaks to the idea that if you imagine a thing, then your brain will help you get to that thing. So if you imagine a great deal, a high level of success, that's the problem that your subconscious mind is going to work on. That's where these ideas come from in the shower. So if you've got a small problem that you're working on in your head, you're going to get small answers. But if you're working on the big problem, the long-term vision, and it's a big one, your brain is going to serve up big time answers, big time strategies, and you're going to have big time success. You need to take bold, massive action that's outside your comfort zone. All of these things that you hear from these leaders, including Arnold, talk about how you don't want to be thinking small. If you're going to go to all the effort to do something, you might as well be hitting for amazing and not just, kind of mediocre. Now, the third thing he says, and this is I think my favorite part of Arnold's story, ignore the naysayers. And we certainly have that in spades in internet marketing.
My third rule is ignore the naysayers.
All of these people, what are you doing? You're working on this podcast. You're trying to sell stuff online. You're trying to teach courses. That's never going to work. You need to go back to your regular day job, go back to your traditional career, because what you're doing is not going to work. It might be your spouse. It might be your kids or your parents. Usually there's someone in your life who doesn't understand what you're trying to do. They're not like-minded, and they don't have that vision that you established in step number 1 to be able to get these kind of things done. And so you really just need to ignore those people. That negative energy, Zig Ziglar calls it stinking thinking. You cannot let that in your mind. You have to ignore the naysayers. And for Arnold, particularly, I think the story he's told many, many times is how when he got to Hollywood and told producers and directors that he wanted to be a leading man, the first thing they said to him was, "Well, you look like an idiot. You're a big muscle-bound knucklehead. There's no way we're going to have a role for a guy like you. You look like a big meathead with all these muscles that you've built as Mr. Universe." And the second thing is, you barely speak English. I mean, Arnold's accent is really, it was really pronounced then. It's still really, really strong. And they're like, dude, we just, we're in the post-World War II era. There's no way this German-sounding guy is going to be a leading man in America. There's still too much resentment harbored there, and people can barely understand you anyway. So forget it. There's no way it's going to happen. Well, it turned out that all of those oddities that Arnold had, the big muscle-bound thing, and the accent turned into strengths. Because when he was Conan the Barbarian, that was successful because of his body, because of this Mr. Universe physique that he had. Obviously, Conan the Barbarian was the perfect role for him. And then the second and the most famous role he ever had is the Terminator. What's the most famous line from the Terminator? That's right. "I'll be back," right? I mean, that's the line that everybody talks about. So why is that line special? James Cameron said it's one of the most famous lines in movie history because of Arnold's accent. The thing that was supposed to keep him out of movies ended up being the big thing that everybody remembers that makes him so wonderfully famous. So ignore those naysayers, because not only are they not going to help you, they're probably wrong. Fourth thing from Arnold, work your butt off. Now, he uses a little bit stronger word, but, maybe the kids are in the car, so you know what I'm talking about. You really got to do the work.
The fourth rule is work your ass off. You never want to fail because you didn't work hard enough. It doesn't matter in what area you're in. No pain, no gain.
And I don't mean kill yourself, and I don't think Arnold does either, but this idea of focused, continuous work, he talks about the fact that when he was a bodybuilder, he did that for 5 hours a day, every day. I'm not talking about you working on your internet business for 5 hours a day, every day. If you're a part-time entrepreneur with kids, for example, that's impossible. But 30 minutes a day, every day is definitely possible. So whatever working your butt off for you means for you, that's what you need to be doing. And that's making a choice between doing the work and watching television, or doing the work and taking a nap, or doing the work or sleeping in. Those are the choices that you're making. And whatever work your butt off means for you, you need to be doing that. And I'll challenge you, and I'll say that whatever it is that you're doing these days right now, whatever it is that you're doing is probably not all that you can be doing comfortably. Don't burn yourself out. Don't go crazy. Don't ruin your vision by driving yourself into the ground, but make sure you're working hard and doing the work. And a corollary to this is you can't get something for nothing. And that's really the other thing that Arnold's talking about. If you want to get somewhere or get something out of life, you're going to have to do the work. And one of the things that I see both in my day job and all around is that particularly younger people, they've yet to understand that it's not necessarily just going to come to you, that they're people are still learning, particularly I think in this day and age. Here I go now as an old guy, the super OG, talking about young people. But one of the things that I observe in the universe right now is that particularly younger people feel like they're entitled to whatever it is that they're going after, and they don't necessarily understand that they might need sacrifice, delayed gratification, and a lot of hard work. Those are the three things that you need. I'm telling you right now, if you want to build a really successful internet business that meets your vision and is not small, you're going to need to have some sacrifice. You're going to need to do a lot of hard work, and there's going to be some delayed gratification, meaning that you're going to have to do a lot of work now to get results later that you really, really love. As Arnold says, you need to work your butt off. And then I think the final thing that Arnold says, and I love this one the most, and in fact, I love it so much, I might put it at the very top. Don't just take, give back.
And my fifth and last rule is don't just take, give something back. Tear down that mirror that makes you always look at yourself, and you will be able to look beyond that mirror, and you will see the millions and millions of people that need your help.
Whatever that means for you in your business, I think one aspect of this is you need to be creating amazing, massive value in your business. And that's one way that you give back on the front end, paying it forward, creating value that people are willing to pay for. That's one way that you're giving back. But I think the other way you're giving back is that when you are successful, you're helping other people become successful. You're giving back to your community, you're donating to charity, you're doing whatever that means for you to give back. And Arnold goes through a bunch of things that he's done. It's really quite amazing with all the wealth that he's generated, how many children he's been able to feed and people that he's been able to help throughout the world. And particularly in Arnold's case, he remembers what it was like to be poor in a kind of a downtrodden economy. And so he's got that frame of reference, and I think that really helps him deliver on that promise of getting back. So those are the 5 things. Have a vision. Definitely applies to your internet business. Do you know what your vision is for your internet business? If that word vision is too hard for you, just tell me what you want to be in a year and what you want to be in 5 years, and let's let that be your vision. Don't think small. Whatever it is that you're thinking, ramp it up a notch, because I'm going to tell you it's possible. Crazy stuff happens every day. And if you can have a vision that's powerful and it's large, those two work together. Small visions aren't very motivating, and large visions are very motivating. So the more you can tangle those two up together and make your vision large, the more motivation that you can generate. Ignore those naysayers. They're all around you. Politely tell them to go away. That's number 3. Number 4, work very, very hard. And number 5, don't just take, give back. Okay, so that's exciting. That's Arnold.
I'll be back.
Now, next week is even more exciting, because in the vein of this mindset topic, I'm bringing Cliff Ravenscraft on the show. As you know, he is the mindset answer man, and he has an amazing event coming up in September, the Free the Dream event. I was at the inaugural event last year. This year promises to be even more amazing. And Free the Dream is just an absolutely unbelievable thing, not just because it's a great event, but because of the content that the event is based on and how it helps people transform lives. Cliff is going to be here to share a little bit of that with you in a way that will help you on your own journey. So don't miss that next week in episode 172. Until then, I hope you have an amazing week. I hope you work through Arnold's 5 rules and tips for being incredibly successful. And I want you to just go out there and crush it this week. Until next week, ciao.
You can do it right when it's late at night.
You've been listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Be sure to visit latenightpodcast.com today to leave feedback for Mark. Download special bonus content, access the show notes, and more. See you there.
Until then, go and make some great progress on your internet business. One night at a time.
One night at a time.
Okay, so I just had to play, just to entice you to go watch this video. I have to play the very beginning of it for you with Arnold, because Arnold's a really funny guy. And so here's what he says, the real keys. Forget the 5 stuff I said before. Here are the real keys to being a true success.
People ask me all the time, what is the secret to success? And I always tell them what the short version is, you got to have a 22-inch biceps. And you got to be able to kill predators with your bare hands. And of course, you got to have this charming Austrian accent. That's a given. The long version is that I actually always had 5 rules. You don't need to be a bodybuilding champion. You don't need to want to be an action hero or anything like that. If you want to excel in whatever you do, those rules are for you.
Late night internet marketing.
Hey, it's Mark again. I wanted to tell you one more time about this absolutely free resource that I have for helping people who are trying to get the big picture for internet marketing, actually get started and understand what all their choices are. If that's not you, there's no more content. You can skip to the end. But if you're someone who came to this podcast because you're searching for how to get started online and you just can't cut through all the noise, I get it. That was me. In 2007, when I was trying to get started, there were so many people throwing offers at me that I really couldn't even understand what all the different business models were. I couldn't understand how money moved around on the internet, and I couldn't really get a grip on what direction I wanted to go in so I could figure out how to move forward. I've created a free video resource for you just for that purpose at latenightim.com/explain. In several short videos, I just explained to you what internet marketing is all about and what online business is all about and the different options that you have for starting an online business. There's nothing to buy there. You just sign up for access and you get the videos just like that. So if that's interesting to you, or if you know someone who's in a same situation, send them that link, latenightim.com/explain. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are thinking that are in the exact same position that I was in more than a decade ago in 2007. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. And in some ways, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Again, that's latenightim.com/explain.
Late night internet marketing.